Well, thank you so much for coming on. Welcome to another episode of Brilliant People Doing Brilliant Things. And today we have Patricia Bates on, and she has written a wonderful novel. And we are here to learn all about it. And she's going to read us an excerpt. I'm so excited. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and go. Sorry.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm Patricia Bates. I am a Canadian author. Chains of Rome is the first historical book that I have had out in a couple of years. That's actually taken me over a year to write it because of all the research that I put into it. It is a dark, gritty historical romance set in ancient Rome. It's actually set in two locations in Rome. One is Neapolis, and one is in Pompeii before the eruption.
Nice.
It features a very strong-willed heroine. She was born into slavery, and she has served her Domina for her entire life. She was actually gifted to her Domina as a child. They are actually the same age, and so she's grown up with her Domina as the boss, and that's all she knows. She is very skilled in medicines and potions, and as such works as the healer and works as the healer's assistant for the villa that they live in. Valeria is she's a very unique character. I kind of took this this image that I had of a woman who is not afraid to stand up and to her boss and say, no, that's enough. But she's also very aware of the place that she's in and the uncertainty that she lives in. So she is, Valeria is the heroine. Tritus is the hero. He is actually a war chieftain who was taken off the battlefield, brought over to Neapolis and purchased to become a gladiator. Him and Celeria develop kind of a symbiotic relationship. They need each other to survive because Celeria does something to piss off the boss and winds up in a very unusual position. So she has to find a way of dealing with that and becoming a little bit more aware of where she's at and how to survive, and Tritus helps her while she also helps him learn the ropes of being a slave in Rome. And so throughout the book, there's lots of twists, there's turns, there's betrayals, there's mysteries, there's secrets that become uncovered, and those secrets are massive secrets that can potentially uproot everything.
Lots of twists.
Oh yes. I had one beta reader that she was reading it and she was critiquing it for me, and it was a lot of fun because I'm sitting there, we're working on it because we do live critiques, right? And we're sitting there. And
really?
Oh no, you didn't. I'm like, I did. So
what do you find? So this is probably not your first time working with beta readers. How is that for you? Just real quick.
I have a dedicated group that I work with. I've been working with them for a year now. And they are my beta readers. They are my critique partners. They are my sisters, my writing sisters. I love them. They are absolutely invaluable to me. I don't think that I could have done this project without them. Simply because I've been in the industry for a long time. My first book was actually published and came out in 2008, 2009. So I've been here for a while, and I hate to say it, but I was kind of getting lackluster in my excitement for it. I really love writing, but at the same time, it was kind of, I have other things I could be doing, and I wasn't really
Burnout is real.
Yes, it was. So when I met these ladies, they were absolutely phenomenal in re-energizing me and reinvigorating me. And when we started this project and I started critiquing with them on this project, I kind of went into it cynical. I'm like, this is just, I'm probably never going to do anything with this. It's never going to see the light of day, but I'm going to, and now it's coming up. I set up the pre-orders last night. We're just waiting for approval from Amazon, Kobo, and Nook. And then it's going to be live for pre-order. And I am just absolutely floored by the depth of this story. It's not your typical fluffy historical romance. The hero is an alpha. The heroine is an alpha. They're both very strong characters, very in your face. She has to be, she turns into a gladiator. She fights in the amphitheater. She has matches. She does the things that he's doing. She breaks rules. She bends the rules. And so I really, I really love her because she kind of gives a new life to a way of thinking, I think. And so with this book, it was just working with these ladies. I really found myself going, okay, you know what? I can do this. I can totally do this. I'm invigorated. I'm re-in-charge. My creative batteries are recharged. I'm more engaged with my marketing and my promotion and reaching out to people. I'm reviving my newsletters. Brand new day.
What was the pivot point in this process from being just burnout? And then was it finding the group, or what was the inspiration for this tale that just seems to have really meshed lots of genres while keeping within the different romance, the romance kind of pattern? Yeah. So what's that? Tell me about that journey.
I think honestly it was, it wasn't the first couple of chapters feedback. I'll tell you that, because by the end of chapter 2, with all the feedback that I was getting, I was so tempted to throw in the rag. And then I sat down and I had a conversation with these girls and these ladies, and they're like, you know what? You have a really good book here. And here's the thing. This is a historical romance. The group that I was originally starting critiques with and starting to work with, historical romances is not their thing. It's not their genre.
Well, that's really hard.
So getting that feedback, and then having them say, hey, when this comes out, I want a copy of this. I'm going to buy a copy of this. It was just like, I can do this. I'm back. I am back. Okay, you know what? Become a sponge, Patricia. Become that sponge. We are going to soak in all of that feedback, all of that critical information to make these characters relatable, identifiable, to make the bad guy, the ultimate bad guy that you just love to hate, and then the good guy, this character that, you can not help but want to reach in and hug, So I think that was the
Yay, I love a hero. I just want to kind of be like, it's okay. You're going to be loved. We can heal you. I can save you. This is going to be the time I save you.
Yeah, and that's what it is.
It's really important to make sure you've got people who understand the genre you're working with and the story you're trying to tell, it sounds like.
Yes, and I didn't have that. I will be honest.
How did you manage?
I'm not sure. I think it was just because personality-wise, we all clicked.
That's even better.
And we all were open to the communication. It wasn't just because we do our critiques live, so which is different than some critique partners and beta readers and that sort of thing. We do everything live, and when we're doing things live, what we do is we meet twice a week. And the group that I'm with now, we've kind of shrunk, and the group that I started off with was different than the ones that I'm working now, but we were all part of the same group, and then we reorganized and kind of shuffled around, and now, I'm with a smaller group that I've been with, and it's been really a learning curve for me, because that communication is key, and having those live critiques, because it's so much easier to do a critique live than it is to do it where you're just uploading something to a folder, they're looking through it, they're making notes, they're making suggestions, and you're getting it back. Because you can say, hey, no, I want to know why this is, you're making this statement. Why are you suggesting this? This is not how this character goes. And I think that's huge. I think that's a big part of having that successful relationship with your beta readers, your critique partners, is really actually understanding that, yeah, you are kind of sort of, communication is a huge part of it. You need to have it. If you don't have it, well, you're not going to get as
dialogue. You really need that in time dialogue. Otherwise, there's a lot that gets lost in, even though we are writers and our medium is words, lots can get lost.
Yes. Because even with critiques, we're doing, like, we do critique two chapters a night when we do a critique. So we have 2 hours, and we usually do 1 hour for one chapter and 1 hour for a second chapter. Now, the 2 chapters are completely different because they're 2 different authors. So if we make a note in our chapter to move, and then we move on to the next chapter, if I go back a week later and I'm looking at it, I'm going, what's this? Without that context, it does make it a lot harder. So having that back and forth and that live feedback is incredibly important. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think this book is so phenomenal. And it's really helped me with my other writing, because I've applied what I've been learning with this book to the other projects that I've been working on, that I've been writing at simultaneously, because I never have one project on the go. I'm one of
that
those
makes sense. You need to be able to go back, like, I'm bored, I need to switch it up.
Yes.
But okay, so now we have to hear some of this wonderful, wonderful story you have created. Can you please give us a little context of the background to set the scene a little bit? What just happened?
Okay, so Chains of Rome is set in the 771 BC. So it's pre-Servile War, the Third Servile War, which is pre-Spartacus time.
Are we going to see Pompeii go under? Because you mentioned.
No, not in the sense of the volcano erupting. No, that's a little bit farther into the future for this book. What you do see power shifts. You see secrets that come out and see the light of day. You see changes in people. You see how decisions that are made affect more than just one person. And you also see how personal choices can affect the people drastically. We have in here, and I'm not going to give anything away, but let's just say, for the sake of conversation here, let's just say that the power shift in this book, when we go through some of these, the twists and the turns and the shifts and the secrets that come out and the betrayals and all this, the power shift is going to leave you going, whoa, literally.
All right. So right now we've got our main heroine. Oh, I'm trying a new headphone. It's sort of working. All right, we've got our main heroine, and we've got our hero. And what is happening right before this scene?
Okay, I just bear with me here, because I am just going to pull this up, because I'm not organized today.
You are okay. We are good. This woman is putting out a launch, and it is difficult. You are seeing in real time, people, and it is okay. Know that this is part of the process.
This is part of the process, because once you get that process, once you look at it, it's just an absolute, I just love it. I'm just going to, if my computer would work faster, but I think it's because I've got so much on the go on my computer. Honestly, I'm actually doing the print cover right now as well. I'm working on the print cover, because this book is coming out digitally for pre-order this week. Before it goes live April 9th, it will actually have the print version, should be live. And then I am working on having it as an audiobook for later in the year. So yeah, it's a little bit, So to set up the scene for the excerpt that I'm going to read, and forgive me because I'm going to switch my attention to the screen so I can read. We are in we are actually in the villa after the Domina has had her child, and her aim is not to have that child. She didn't want children, and but at the time, in the time period, it's an expectation. That is her job, to provide an heir for her husband. So what she's done is she has given Celeria the uncomfortable task of removing the child from the villa. And where we are at, Celeria has taken this babe, and she is going to follow Domina's instructions in a way that allows her to live with herself. So she's going to allow this child to grow up happy and healthy and loved, and etc. And that's where we're going to jump into in this particular scene. So without further ado, let's get into the scene, and yeah, it should be fun. Just give me a second here because I have been talking a lot today. All right. So Celeria has left the villa. She is in a temple. She's gone to the temple to find someone who she thinks would be appropriate to take the baby and raise the baby as their own. And so that's where she's at. And we start off the scene here. Rocking the sleeping child in her arms, Celeria moved through those gathered with offerings to pray, her eyes searching every corner for a safe place to put the newborn. She paused before approaching a young woman flanked by 2 female slaves. The woman's head was bowed in prayer, an offering in her hands. Celeria hovered, her stomach nodding with unease with each passing heartbeat. She listened to the woman's prayers, her own safety a constant worry. She glanced down into the sleeping face in her arms and smiled. The boy was innocent, beloved of the gods. He would be blessed for being cast aside by his mother's cold heart. She pressed a soft kiss to his forehead. I will see you to a woman deserving of you, my little one. The shadows cast off by the flickering flames offered her partial cover. She moved closer to the noblewoman. A subtle movement shifted the child beneath the pale swaddling. Her pulse racing, she walked up and stopped by one of the servants. She kept her voice low so as not to draw unwanted attention. I would make offering to your Domina. The words were low enough not to disturb those seeking favor. The other slaves, however, turned and looked at her. She lowered her eyes. They had heard her. The woman's slaves glanced at her, then at the bundle in her arms. The shorter reached forward as though to nudge her Domina. The woman turned, her features impassive. Domina, she would make an offering. Offering for what? I seek favor of the Bona Dea. She has listened to your prayers, Celeria swallowed against her nerves. The weight and warmth of the babe pressed against her, a constant reminder of why she was there. It was for the babe, Celeria. If Achillea had her way, he would perish. She couldn't turn from her path now. You are a proper home, respectable and devout. You honor the goddess with your offerings and prayers. Thank you for your kindness, but I would return to my prayers. What offering do you make? A child, newborn, male, in fine health. He has been blessed by Jupiter himself, Celeria leaned closer, delivered to me with instructions to find one worthy of raising the child. I have prayed for a child of my husband's for so long, to take a child not of his blood, but chosen by the gods themselves. To refuse such a gift, Celeria bowed her head and stepped back, letting a hint of a smile drag her lips upward. Forgive me. I have made a grievous error, it seems. I shall seek a more suitable mother for the child. No! The noblewoman pushed aside her hovering slaves and grabbed hold of Celeria's arm. Forgive me for my blundering. I will take the boy. I beg of you, allow me such a chance to raise him. After all this time, surely you could understand. I could not believe the gods would favor me in such a manner. I meant no insult to you or the gods, but doubts against myself. Please, I beg of you. When your husband returns, tell him you kept the news of your pregnancy from him. that you sought favor from the gods, but your heart could not allow you to hope. You feared the babe would not draw breath, and therefore you held your tongue. To tell your slaves, if questioned, they must speak, you ordered their silence, Solaria warned. It must be thus. You feared the gods and would take the child and waited until it was delivered unto you to ensure you did not disappoint him. To speak any other words to bring shame upon your house. To ignore my warnings invites discord into your life. He has been away for several months on business, the woman whispered, her voice cracking with her emotions. Give him a son upon his return, and you will find blessings from Bona Dea and the other gods. Solaria passed over the boy, carefully tucking the blanket around the child. She watched the woman stare down into the babe's face. A soft smile quickly shared. Treat him as your blood, but remember my warning. If you fail him, discordia will rise within your home, and fortunes will turn. Thank you, the woman sobbed, clutching her new baby. Solaria tucked in the edge of the swaddling tighter, turned and hurried back toward the door. She stepped through the doors of the temple, glancing up. Pink tinged along the horizon, lighting the dark sky. The sun kissed the horizon. The new dawn, the city came to life. Soldiers moved around, and the morning silence was split by the call to the Graccholosteum. Tugging her wrap tighter around her, Solaria ducked her head and hurried through the gathering crowds. Achillea would be quick to punish if she was not back in the villa soon.
Thank you. That was great. What is a domina? Can you tell us about that? And
Domina is actually the mistress of house. So in more recent times, we would call her the mistress of the house, or the master's wife. She was the head. She was the female head of the house. She answered only to her husband and to her father.
mm-hmm.
Yes. Excuse me. Yes, that's what she was.
What was one of the most interesting things you discovered while writing this novel?
The process that went with the whole slavery aspect, part of it, how it was so common that in Rome, the Romans themselves were far outweighed. I think it was 2 or 3 slaves for every Roman, and the more money you had, the more slaves you had. There were some people who had 400 slaves, and that was because they wanted to show off their wealth.
Jeez. And
slaves were not necessarily uneducated. Some of them were actually more educated than their masters. And there was the laws that went with it. There was laws on the books in Rome where if a slave did nothing to protect their dominus, then every slave that the dominus owned could be killed. So it was there was just so much. It was so interesting, and finding out the differences in how the society worked too was it was so much fun to find that out, to kind of dig down and find the answers that I wanted, and I really get to understand, this is so much different than what we think of today in the terms of slavery, because they could buy their freedom. Granted, there was a process to it, but some slaves actually bought their freedom or were gifted freedom because they did so much, and then they became like serfs. They were free. They could marry. They could do whatever they wanted. They could vote, but they still served their original dominus, which was the master of the house, their owner. Very interesting stuff.
If you could go back in time and tell yourself something, or tell yourself at the beginning of this process something, what would be the advice you'd give yourself at the beginning if you knew what you knew now? Hopefully that wasn't weird.
No, that was not weird at all. You know what? I would tell myself, honestly, I would say stick with it. Be realistic in your goals. You need to just kind of focus on what you need to do, and not be so worried that it's not going to work, and just trust yourself. You can do this. This project is amazing. It was a fun book to write. It was really fun to create the characters, the setting, build all of that, and just be open to learning. Let yourself be that sponge. Let yourself embrace learning more about about everything, about the process. Go into the process with an open mind and willingness to learn the writing, because that was part of it too. When I first started, I think I was kind of closed off a little bit about learning new skills, new writing skills. And then one of my critique partners had said, oh, well, if you go deep point of view, and I'm like, deep point of view, what is that? I hadn't heard of it. I hadn't, and then I started doing some research and started getting into it and asking questions. And I'm like, that is awesome. I need to know more about it. I need to learn everything I can about it, because it really took what I was already doing and added a layer or two or three of depth to the characters. So instead of a character being two-dimensional, now they're three-dimensional. Now they're four-dimensional. Now it's, this character is someone that, a reader is going to, could honestly read through the book and then turn around and expect it to be right there by their elbow.
It's incredible. What books inspired you, or things inspired the story that you have?
I was watching some watching movies about ancient Rome. I was watching some historical stuff on, like, some Discovery Channel stuff on ancient Rome. I'm a history buff, so I get an inkling of something that interests me, and I'm like a dog with a bone. I just chase it down. I have to know everything about it. And then I was in a store here in Saskatchewan, one of the thrift stores, and I happened to glance down, and there was a book on the shelf. And I'm like, what? I gotta pick this up. I gotta see what this book is all about. It was a nonfiction work, and it was all about the lives of women in ancient Greece and Rome. And I started reading it, and I'm like, I really want to do something with a character back in those days. I love Roman mythology. I love the Greek mythology. I love the Egyptian mythology. I love all of that. So let's try that. And then Celeria came to be, and Celeria was originally, she's always been a slave, but I think when I was looking at it, I was like, well, I want to make this different. I want to make it so that she's different than others, other slave books. I want to make it so it's believable that when, if something happens down in the book, so on and so forth, then there's that personality. I want to give her a little bit more personality. So I really took that and I ran with it and really jumped into it. And that was kind of the inspiration. And then I wanted to challenge myself. I haven't actually written historical in a couple of years. So I wanted to challenge myself by writing another historical. I've been kind of, in the last little while, I've been doing a romantic suspense, contemporaries, paranormals, but I haven't really sat down and written a true historical in a long, long time. So I wanted to try and challenge myself. And I said to myself, no, you need to be doing at least, one historical. That's what you started with. You need to get back to it. You need to retouch with your roots, write a historical, see what happens. And then Chains of Rome was born.
That's amazing. So I was curious, and I'm sorry that I don't know this, but is there magic in this book? I couldn't tell if, like, the gods are actually kind of real, or if we had it, maybe they are, maybe they aren't type of thing going on.
No, there is no magic in this at all. This is strictly historical. It is. The gods are there, but in the way that the characters worship them. There's no interactions. It's Celeria is throughout the book we kind of learn a little bit more about her, and Celeria herself, there was some circumstances around her birth, and so she's actually believed to have been touched by Discordia. Discordia is discord and uncertainty and all of these things and bad luck. So for her, she's gone through her whole life with this. So she's embraced this and used it to, as a way to protect herself and to engage with, the world around her in a sense. So, but yeah, there's definitely no magic in this one at all.
That's awesome. Which which Roman god do you have an affinity for? Do you have a particular one that you like that one is my I don't know.
You know, I love them all.
You're drawn
Not
to.
I'm. I think I would have to say I'm Jupiter is probably Jupiter is the main one. Because that's the head of the
Hmm.
gods. He's kind of Jupiter is like Zeus, but he's not
Yes.
quite as bad as Zeus and how Zeus did this thing. But I think it would be Jupiter and Discordia are the two that I think that I really can relate to because it's they're kind of the characters are kind of the embodiment of those two, and so those are the two that I would definitely be more lean a little bit more towards with my favoritism.
Do you have any self-care routines or ways that I mean, I know your beta readers have really helped refill your cup, but are there other things that you do to refill your artist cup or that you're really into right now?
I do. I do graphic design. I'm actually I do cover design. I do book covers. Through my company,
That's
Romancing the
amazing.
Covers, and I also crochet a lot. I'm actually working on a
Like
project right
romancing the stone. I'm sorry.
now. Yes. I'm working a table runner right now, and then I'm also working on a Cinderella carriage. Crochet. I like to garden,
Whoa,
but of course there's snow on
that's
the ground.
amazing.
So yeah, yeah. So yeah, I like horseback riding, but
How long have you
unfortunately,
been crocheting for?
I'm going to date myself here, but it's probably been close to. Well, I'm 44 this year, and I started when I was 8 or 9. So
Nice. So you're a
well over
pro.
years. Yeah, yeah. Um, I love it. I find it's really relaxing. If I have a stressful day, sit down and crochet. So that for me is sort of how. And I like to travel. Not that we can do too much traveling these days, but we usually go for a family day, and that's my disconnecting. That's my. I take my phone with me. I have my
Mhm.
music. I take my crocheting, and we just get into the car and we go. We're gone all day. We come back, and that's my day away from electronics. That's my day away from writing, from dealing with my clients, anything related to that. Deadlines, all of that. I take one day, and I also take one day a week where I try and focus strictly on myself, and that means giving myself, the facial treatment, whatever, sleeping in, not getting out of my PJs. Then that's what I do, and I find that really, yes, it really does help
You have
because
to.
I find that I can I can make notes too. It doesn't matter where I'm at. My brain will suddenly click in, and I'll be like, oh wait, you got to do this on this book, or you got to do this on that book, and so doing that, taking care of myself. Putting myself first some days is huge to recharging that battery, and you don't have to spend a lot of time. I mean, you could spend 30 minutes just focusing on you, whether it's just listening to music, whether it's listening to the waves crash on your computer, maybe you've got an app that has nature sounds, whatever. You do that, and it just recharges those batteries and really allows you to reconnect with yourself and your creative juices, and that's huge. Honestly, that's a huge,
It sounds like
huge
you're really good at honoring it because it's
well,
hard to make sure you weekly have a sacred thing that you do, especially when you
yeah,
work from home. I feel like that's a big
yes,
challenge.
yeah. I have a
That's
husband that
impressive.
doesn't leave me an option though. He's well trained.
Good.
My husband really
Support is
does.
needed.
Yes, yeah, he really does make sure that I take some time for me, and he's probably the the head of my cheerleader zone. He's there. He shares all my posts. He shares information about my books. He goes to coffee and he sits down and he sits and talks about them. He's really there. He's been really instrumental in helping me and guiding me and allowing me not to get depressed when I get that rejection, or, you know, when I hit a roadblock with my writing or something like that. He really, and you know, he's like, no, what are you doing? Why aren't you doing this? You do this, you know? So I think, honestly, I think for any author out there, if you have a support network in place, it's absolutely vital to have. You know, Leanna and Carolyn and Randy, you know, those girls are absolutely amazing. I talk to them almost every day. Sierra is another one that I talk to frequently. I can't wait for her to get back to Ohio so we can actually have chat
How did
time.
you find them? Was it in real life or on the internet?
On the internet. Sierra, I knew way back. It's been 10 years now, I think, 11 years that I met her. We were both published through the same publishing house, which has since closed its doors. And she had just gotten her book contracted, and she had no idea what to do, how to go, you know, what to do. And her and I hit it off. We started chit-chatting, and then it kind of devolved, and then she's like, well, I have no idea. Well, you know, I've done some work with you know, publishers, editing and stuff before, so I said, I'll have to take a look. So we started with kind of a professional relationship, and then it sort of it grew from there. And now she's my adopted sister from another mother, as I call her. We talk all the time. She's been to my home, you know, if I'm feeling down, I can reach out to her and say, hey, you know, can you just give me some encouragement? And she's there, you know, she's always been there for me, which is absolutely amazing. And it goes both ways, you know. I'm sometimes a little mean to her because I'm like, no, you're not giving up. You're going to do this. This is how you're going to do it. We're going to do this and this and this. And I don't let her.
Tough love.
Yes, the tough love. Carolyn, Leanna, and Randy are in the Romantics critique group. They are my beta readers. They are my critique partners, and they are my writing sisters. They're absolutely amazing. And Carolyn just had a book come out in December as part of the Romantics critique group. We had an anthology that we put out. So Carolyn has her debut book in this one.
Please send me that link and I'll put it in the doobly-doo below.
Yep. And then
as well.
Leanna and Randy and Sierra, there were 6 of us that put together this anthology. We are all crazy. Right. I will be the first to admit it. We sat down and I think it was...
Well, that makes the best people.
You know what? It does. It does. We sat down in October and we decided, hey, let's do a Christmas anthology. We did a Christmas anthology in 6 weeks.
Does your husband ever inspire some of your... Oh, holy cow.
Yes.
Does your husband ever inspire some of your romantic leads?
Yes. There's a couple of characters that are in my books that I've taken bits and pieces out of his personality and thrown in. But I'm allowed.
Does it help you to like write the romantic scenes a little bit more, do you find, or not so much? Or what do you like about writing romance specifically?
I like...
What draws you to that genre?
The genre, well, I kind of grew up reading it, but I like the way that we can write the conflict that's resolvable and have characters that we can identify with, and that aren't picture perfect. You know, they're not airbrushed models that we can put through the ringer and have them come out on top and still be, you know, still show that growth. And I think romance also is one of the hardest genres to write, I will be honest, in my opinion, because you have to, there's a certain way you have to write with a certain something, you know, I mean, you have to add so much layers.
There are some beats you have to hit.
Yes.
You have to have the beats, and you have to hit those notes. It's its own special fantasy genre, and you have to make sure that you reward us with that happy ending. It's hard.
Yes. And we, you know, and we talk a lot about there's a lot of conversations sometimes too about the differences between, you know, romance and a love story. You know, a love story is really great. Nicholas Sparks.
Sparks is wonderful, but that's different than romance.
That's different. That is a love story. That's a love story. A
Right.
romance is different in that it is boy meets girl, or boy meets boy, or girl meets girl, or girl
Every Fred
meets.
Astaire movie ever.
Yes, yes. Every Fred Astaire, White Christmas. Yes, it is a Christmas. It is a Christmas movie, but White Christmas is just a romance
Boy
story.
gets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl.
Yes, yes.
What was
And
your
so,
first and favorite romance? Like what was like the one that you're like, yes, I love you?
oh gosh,
Or you're the first one that you picked up, you know how to.
oh,
Mine was what was it? Oh shoot. I'm spazzing on it. Took place on a boat. All the best ones do. The second one was The Flame and the Flower, but the first one was this juvenile fiction thing. It
yeah,
went on for
yeah.
3, and they're out of print now. Anyway.
I would have to say the first book that really got me hooked on
Uh-huh.
romance was Mackenzie Mountain,
Mm.
by Linda Howard. That was the first one that
Nice.
really stuck with me. Um, and from there it kind of went on to and expand. I grew up reading Louis L'Amour, Nora Roberts, Janet Daly, but it wasn't until I
Mm-hmm.
actually picked up Mackenzie's Mountain back when I was preteen, and I got it at the library. It was one of those books that was just on the shelf. It was
Right?
one of the honor system. You take it, you bring it back. It's not a checkout. And so I was reading it, and it just hooked me, and I'm like, I can do this. And it really inspired me not only to read the genre, but to write the genre. And I think after I finished that one, I started dabbling in the romance, writing the romance genre. And I think I was 12 or 13. In junior high, I finished my first full-length novel. Before that, I had been writing short stories. I had been writing,
Impressive.
and it was a romance. And I wish I had it now, but unfortunately, there were some spicy scenes that my grandmother didn't really like, so she took it away. But whatever. But it was just, it was something that I was dabbling with, and by the time I was in ninth grade, my creative writing teacher and my English teacher, who were the same teacher, Mrs. Howie, they were like, you know what, you need to focus on this. You need to keep going with this because this is really good. And so I did. And that was kind of what really got me into it, was reading Mackenzie's Mountain, and then Mackenzie's Mission, and then trying to emulate that and trying to make it do something my own. I spent a few years writing fan fiction. I think everyone who's an author does. It's brainless, it's mindless. You can do it, and because you're not creating the character from scratch.
What'd you start with?
I started way back, and this is going to date me so bad. But I actually started doing fan fiction with this TV show that was called The Young Riders. It was a Western. It was on in the late 80s, early 90s. It was on for 3 years, and it was all about Pony Express.
Nice.
And so it had a very eclectic group of characters, and I just loved it so much. And I was still writing fan fiction for that up until about 5 years ago. And then at that time, it was just like, I can't do that because I can't do anymore. I got too much on the go right now, so I had to kind of cut back. But I still enjoy it. I still have some of the old pieces that I've done. And with some of that fan fiction too, I did one series. I'm kind of kicking my butt because my computer died and I didn't back it up.
I hate that.
I know, it's like, now I have an external hard drive that everything goes on. But
I emailed myself stuff.
Yes, I use Google Drive, honestly, for a backup. I use Google Drive. And if I'm running out of space and I want to keep stuff, I just switch over and I create a new Gmail. So I
just try to like back it up 12 places. I crashed like 3 computers without backing stuff up as a kid. It's tragic.
Yeah. It's just, So yeah, and I mean, with that, I created a series of originals that followed.
Nice.
In the first fan fictions, the characters had married, they had children. So in the subsequent books, the kids had their own stories, and then the kids' kids had their stories. So I had taken.
Are you hoping to kind of do this with your book?
No, I don't think so, because I think if I do that one with Chains of Rome, it's too much of a standalone. I honestly could, because there's a
Do we have
change
a
in.
sequel for Chains of Rome on the horizon? Is kind of
There could be. We will
possibly.
see. We will see how well. We will see how well the readers enjoy it, and if the readers want a sequel, let me know. I will be happy to work on it. I am open to that. I actually have a book that came out last July called A Hunter's Desire, and it is a paranormal romantic suspense contemporary male romance, and
You are a Patricia of all trades.
I am. In that one, the one hero is he is a physical medium who interacts with the dead, who's being stalked by a ghost who is very angry because she was murdered and nobody investigated it. And the other hero is a cop who is in town investigating a disappearance. Now, the two events, the angry ghost and the disappearance, are connected. So
nice.
And so to solve the disappearance, they ultimately have to solve. They solve the case with the girl that was murdered, and by doing that, they ultimately solve the disappearance. And so it's I broke the rules with that one. I totally broke the rules with that one. I will be honest with you. If you haven't read the book, I'll give you a spoiler alert right now. I broke the rules. I did give the characters, yes, the characters did get their happily ever after. They did. But there was a caveat. And that caveat was, you'll have to check it out in the book. But I broke the rules.
We are plugging 2 books today, folks.
Yes.
All right, Carissa, another round. Where can we get this book, and when is it out? Get it.
Okay, so Chains of Rome will be available on Amazon, Kobo, and Nook for pre-order. If all goes according to plan, by Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning, in digital. It will be available in print before it goes live as an ebook April 9th. I'm actually hoping to have it in print by the 2nd of April. Is when the print, I'm hoping, goes live. It's a little bit more, there's a little bit more to getting the print organized than the ebook. And then if all goes according to plan, and we are going to keep our fingers crossed that it does, audiobook will be coming out just before Christmas.
Nice. Thank you. All right, everybody, link in the bottom. Please like, subscribe if you want more interviews. Thank you so much, Patricia. You were a delight.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that. Thank you to everybody who tuned in today, and to everyone who's watching this now. Thank you, and let me know how you like the book. And yes, hit the subscribe and the like button and the little bell so you don't miss anything that's coming up from Katrina in the near future.
Thank you. All right.